Hi, and welcome to the very first episode of the Empowered K-12 podcast. I'm your host, Elena Pinkley, and this podcast was created to shine light on the stories, the people, and the purpose behind the work happening in public schools. Today, I'm joined by my good friend, Chief Richard Palomo from Southwest ISD in Texas, someone I have so much respect for both as a leader and a human being. Chief Palomo has built a community where people feel seen, appreciated, and connected, and I think his approach is something every leader can take something from. So grab a snack, get comfortable, and let's jump right in.
Well, good morning, Elena, and thank you for having me. I really think this is going to be a great podcast. Appreciate the work you're doing, advocating for all the great work that many organizations are doing in our country, right? Promoting school safety, promoting a culture of inclusion, and just making sure that our students are set up for success. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Chief, you and I have talked before about your challenge coins and the meaning behind them. For those who might not be familiar, can you please share what these challenge coins represent to you? Why do you give them, and how do you decide who receives one?
Challenge coins serve as a daily reminder to me of our shared values of courage, honor, and service. They also serve as a powerful tool to build unity, inspire pride, and strengthen purpose, right? And as you well know, you've known me for several years now, I think over 5 years, that I am a big cheerleader for the great things that we do for our district. And I am the biggest cheerleader for my organization, and I always like to brag about all the great things that we do. So that also reminds me and reminds others that, hey, we like what they're doing down there, and some organizations have tried to replicate what we're doing. Challenge coins serve as a tangible recognition for hard work, bravery, and dedication to service. We are a group of dedicated public servants. We are stewards of our community, and we embody that, and that challenge coin serves as a reminder. And I always carry extra coins during community presentations. I like to engage my audience. Normally, I'll start off with a question or icebreaker, and I will reward a participant for answering, and I'll share some swag with them, right? And we have three different kind of coins. Our department coin, then our canine has their own coin, and then, of course, our award-winning national and state performing program called Promise. So there's three coins, and I don't know if you have all three.
I do. I do have all three. I just got the K-9 one at the Texas School Safety Conference.
Okay, great. So, like I said, I like to use them as icebreakers for events and community events when I talk to our community stakeholders, when I talk to other professionals. I always have some extra ones with me. What is the history of the coins? They can be traced back to World War One, and they really have evolved since World War One. Now you're seeing a lot of community service organizations with their own coins. I sent you some pictures of my coin collection, and you see there's some really great looking challenge coins. I've collected them over the years. I probably have over 400 challenge coins. So I'm going to have to get me a larger coin box for all these coins that I have. Right? A rack. I need to get a bigger rack. I have so many.
Yeah, you have a lot.
And it's a good conversational piece. When people walk into my office, they see that. They say, oh, I love those challenge coins. So it's a good conversation piece.
Yeah, and I think it's a really great way, like you said in your presentations, just to get people engaged because, people love their prizes.
Oh, absolutely. And they love when they get swag, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I always remind them when I see you again somewhere, whether it's here in Texas or at another conference, you better have that challenge coin because you know what happens if you don't have that challenge coin, Elena. Tell the audience what happens if you don't have it.
Not a good thing. I was at a conference and I had about 6 challenge coins in my pocket and I put them up on the counter and none of the school safety directors had their challenge coins with them.
When you get a challenge coin, I'm going to challenge you and you better have that coin. If not, you're going to owe me a lunch or a dinner.
So just going back to kind of how you work with your team, can you share a little bit about how those values show up in your leadership day to day and, how trust in school culture can't be rushed?
Yeah. So they show up through my communication by clearly articulating our vision, what our vision is for our organization, and making sure that officers understand that we are in the people business and we must subscribe to what I call the platinum rule. Everybody knows what the golden rule is, but I take it a step further. I call it the platinum rule. It means that you treat others better than they expect to get treated. That is our platinum rule. And I embody that, I model that, and that is an expectation for all my officers. When you build positive relationships with people, then the trust starts to follow. Whether it's
Hmm.
students, community members, elected officials, actions speak louder than words. If you embody that, then the trust factor comes in, and then people will support what you're doing. They're going to support your mission.
Beyond challenge coins, what are some of the other ways that you recognize your team or just build that strong sense of loyalty and culture?
All right. A lot of times employees aren't looking for a monetary reward for a good job, or they don't want, a lot of fanfare, right? So we have a group chat where all our officers are on, right? I think just small acknowledgments of great work in that group chat is really good for morale. So when I notice an officer doing something good, or I get a compliment from a community member about, hey, I like the way this officer's working traffic, or this officer went above and beyond to help me, I brag about that officer on that group chat. Also, if they do something above and beyond, we will have a special ceremony where they're going to get recognized. I'm a firm believer that you recognize good work. That motivates people to stay engaged and to do even better. So I'm constantly looking for good things to uplift my officers, and not only officers, but I've also done that for our students and our community members. When I see them doing something good, I will make sure that I'll recognize them because I believe that's important to validate the great
Hmm.
work that we're doing. That's important. And
Yeah,
also,
absolutely.
we celebrate personal milestones. Somebody gets a degree, whether it's a bachelor's, associate's, or master's, I make sure they get some type of recognition. I definitely recognize perfect attendance, right? I had an officer call in for a year. I mean, he showed up every single day. That is commendable. All right. And no days off. So I make sure that I go above and beyond to recognize that type of behavior because that's important. Showing up to work, people depend on
Yeah.
you. Another thing that we do is we'll do a fall family day. We'll go out to a local bowling alley where we invite not only just the officers but their families and their kiddos, and that's really beneficial because it really brings officers together in an environment where they feel comfortable. They see that we're also human, and it really allows us to really humanize who we are and humanize that badge. We have a Christmas luncheon every year since I've been here. I'm going on 10 years here at Southwest. We have a huge Christmas luncheon. We invite all our stakeholders, our officers, and that's really a special time for us. Gives an opportunity to thank the community and gives us a little time to bond with each other. In the spring, we have what we call a burger burn. We'll do burgers and hot dogs. And again, we'll invite all the officers, community members, elected officials, and that allows us to thank them for supporting us. And in Police Week, which is a whole week long, we have an event every single day for 5 days where officers get fed breakfast, lunch, you name it. We get a lot of support from our community stakeholders. They sponsor lunch, breakfast for 5 single days. It just kind of shows an officer that you're appreciated. A lot of times officers feel like they're not appreciated, but that really reminds them of the great work that they're doing. And it shows by those community members coming up, stepping up, and doing those great things for those officers. We also have schedules that are really family friendly. I realize that family is important to young officers. A lot of them have young kids, so we really come up with some really family friendly work schedules. Allow them to go to doctor's appointments, go to their kids' school events, and that is a great retention tool for chiefs.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you have a lot of really good community engagement, which goes a long way in putting all of these things together.
Yes, we have
Hmm.
tremendous community support from our local community at the city level, at the state level. A lot of people support the work that we're doing, and they know that we are here to really help kids navigate this educational system and this thing we call life. I'm all about what can we do to help these kids overcome some challenges that they're coming to school with, right? So I make sure that I hire officers that understand that And we're really in a unique as school resource officers to really change the trajectory for these young people and set them on the right path to success.
Absolutely. For those listening that lead school safety teams, what advice would you give when it comes to building real connection with your people? And this can refer to your team, but it can also refer to some of your community stakeholders.
Absolutely. Well, it goes really beyond rank. I am the chief, but it goes beyond that. It's about building trust. And remember what I talked about earlier is that trust doesn't happen overnight. You have to build positive relations. And my experience has been when you build those positive relations with people and you show them that you're sincere and you're genuine, the trust comes in. You have to be authentic, right? If you say you're in the people business, you better show that you're in the people business. You have to be present. You have to be approachable. You have to get out of your office. And a lot of times you have to go to them because although you may have an open door policy as the chief, people just don't feel comfortable coming to talk to the chief, right? And you try to make sure that they understand that they can come talk to you about anything. But when you think about it, Elena, law enforcement is paramilitary, right? We're kind of structured like the
Hmm.
military, right?
Yeah.
So the chain of command, in the military, you don't go straight to the captain. You got to start with, like your first line leader, your sergeant. And we're the same way. But I try to make sure that I've knocked down those barriers and let them know that, hey, look, you really can come talk to me if you have an issue or you have a concern. But some take advantage of that, some don't. So a lot of times I go to them just to engage in informal small talk, just to see
Mm.
how they're doing, right? To get an inventory of what's going on in their lives. Like, how's your family doing? I know you're going to school. Tell me about this last class you took. Did you have any struggles? How's life treating you in general? So that gives me an opportunity to really get a pulse on what's going on with my officers. And it's just really helpful to know those kind of things, right? But you can't do it if you're sitting in your office for 8 to 10 hours. A lot of times you have to go to them. And the same thing with the community. I'm a big advocate of community engagement. Every opportunity I get, I'm going to go talk to the community. I want to talk to the stakeholders. I want to know what's important to them and how we can work together to make this a better community.
Yeah, that's great. I've seen that too when I've been at conferences with you, how your team interacts and how they interact with you, and it shows that they have a great relationship with you, and it just seems like they can go to you about anything.
Yeah, and when your connections grow and people feel like they're being seen and heard, that certainly helps, right? And then I encourage a healthy work balance, as I mentioned earlier. Have family friendly schedules. Officers put in a lot of time. They spend a lot of time with our police family, right? That's an external family. And a lot of times you spend more time with your external family than you do with your own internal family. So it's not a regular 9 to 5 job. It's more like a 7 to maybe 9, 10 o'clock, right? And after a while, that takes its toll. That's a lot of hours you're away from your family. So I try to make sure that our officers don't get burnt out. And when I start seeing that, I encourage them to take some time off. I want to make sure that they are always physically and mentally ready to do the job. We're one of the first agencies in the state of Texas when it comes to being trauma informed. That has to do with mental health because mental health is such an important topic. And for many years,
Mhm.
in our line of work, just like in the military, that's not something that you talked about. That was taboo, right? So now it's come to the forefront and people understand that mental health struggles are real. We deal with a lot of stressors in our job. A lot of stressors. We see a lot of kids that come to us that have been abused. So people want to vent, they want to tell you. So if you don't know how to process that, that can manifest itself in different ways. So we encourage get involved in something, find activity that you enjoy. Don't work too many hours. Try to find that balance. So that's always a challenge, right? Having that balance. And I tell my officers, we're going to make mistakes, but it shows you're human, right? Humility. You're going to make mistakes. When we make mistakes, we're going to own it. We're going to learn from it and we're going to move on. And I try to lead with sincerity and I always share my experiences and struggles as well as successes. I've had a lot of struggles in my career, in my personal life, and I believe that we all have a story to tell. And a lot of times that story may impact somebody in that audience and somebody may be able to relate to what you're talking about. And I've had that happen. when I talk to different community groups where somebody will come up and say, hey, that really resonated what you talked about, right? But I'm dealing with it now, and I appreciate that you talked about it. So
Mhm.
I think that's part of being a human and humanizing that badge that, hey, look, we're just human just like everybody else. We're not perfect.
Yep.
Although this is a facade on the outside, right? Looks like, hey, man, you're doing great. But you don't know what kind of struggles
Yeah.
people are going through. So I try to put myself in their shoes, right? But we have to be cognizant of that as leaders that, you know what? These folks are human and they're struggling, whether it's
Mhm.
with personal issues, work life issues. We have to understand that. And I always try to listen to understand. And I always like to promote and invest in personal and professional development with my officers. I always want to know, okay, what are you doing to get better and how can I help you get there? Are you working on a degree? And what are your future goals? Do you want to be a chief? Okay, let me help you put you on that career path to become a chief. Do you want to be a supervisor? Let me get you to some leadership schools. I really love to just see people blossom. When they come to us, sometimes right out of the academy, they're really not sure of themselves. They don't know if they can do the job. They
Mhm.
just you can tell that okay, these folks are new and they're struggling to find okay, where do I fit in this organization? Right? I like to bring them in and say, look, you're not going to learn everything overnight. Right? It's a process. Right? I encourage you to keep an open mind and ask a lot of questions. I said, I'm going to set you up for success. I would never put you in a situation where you're going to fail. All right. If we give you an assignment or a task and you don't have those skill sets, we're going to coach you up and we're going to make sure that you succeed. We're going to encourage you. We're going to coach you along the way. And you'd be surprised in a couple of years, those officers are doing fantastic. They blossom. And I think you had an opportunity to meet my promise coordinator, Officer Stefania Velasquez. That's one of the ones I'm talking about. When she first got here, she
Really?
was real shy. She didn't like to talk. Now I can't get her to stop talking. She's on the speaking circuit. She has a powerful story that people can resonate with, and the fact that she's running our Promise program speaks volumes. This is an
Mhm.
award-winning program that's been recognized at the national and at the state level. And she was a stakeholder. She was here at the groundwork when we started this program 5 years ago during COVID. And she's taken this program to the whole different level, a whole different level.
Wow. That's amazing. And sometimes you really just do have to make those mistakes. You can't fear making mistakes because that's how you learn and you teach other people what not to do.
And what I tell them, okay, it's okay to make a mistake. But just make sure that you learn from that mistake and you
Yeah.
try not to repeat that, right? Because we are going to make
Mhm.
mistakes. I've made plenty in my career. All right. So what I like to do, Elena, is really celebrate success. I'm not looking for perfection, but I do want to celebrate their success. To me, in my humble opinion, there's no greater calling than to keep the next generation safe. That's not something we take lightly here, right?
Yeah.
Parents entrust us. They entrust us, right? To take care of their precious cargo. And I need to make sure my officers understand that. And I need to make sure that I give them all the tools that they need. And my experience also has been, Elena, that people stay loyal to the leaders who invest in their potential. If you invest in their potential, they're likely going to stick around with you, right? They're not going to leave you
Mhm.
because you believed in them, right? And we all need somebody to believe in us. And I try to make sure that I do that. And when people are struggling, I try to recognize it and I try to offer support. I might not have all the answers, but we do have a lot of resources. We're gonna be there. We're gonna be there along the way. We're not gonna just forget about them. We want to make sure that we set them up for success here at Southwest.
Mhm. And it's not like that everywhere. Sometimes leaders don't recognize those things, especially if they don't have those relationships established with their team. So I think that's why it's really important that, you leave the office and you go out and talk to them and see what's going on in their lives so that you're able to have those conversations.
I've always said this to me. It's the small things that matter. That's kind of informal, just going out and talking to them, but I think that goes a long way. When you make the time as a leader to take an interest in officer's life and you engage them in small talk, to me, that pays tremendous dividends. I think it's just small things like that. It's just the informal talks, talking to them in the break room. Hey, how things going? Or did you watch the game last night? Just engaging in small talk, right? I think that goes a long way.
If another leader wanted to start something similar with challenge coins in their district, what advice would you give them?
I would tell them if a chief wants to start a challenge coin for his department or her department, I would tell them to form a committee, get
Hmm.
some officers and let them design it for you. That way you're going to get buy-in. And my experience has been when you get buy-in from your people, they're going to support what they help create. It just means a lot more to them, right? That's what I would do. That's what I did with mine. I had my officers create it. They're very creative. They're a lot more talented than I am. I'm not creative. These folks have some, I don't have to tell you, they are very tech savvy when it comes to designs and stuff. So they create it. They run it by me. I love it. Let's make it happen, right? So
Hmm.
so that you get the buy-in. I'm big on
That's so
buy-in.
cool.
Yep,
I didn't know they
absolutely.
designed those. That's so cool.
They did. They designed it. I don't know how they do it, but they do it together, and they come up with they mock it up, and then they run it by me, and we'll take a look at it and I say, yeah, I like what you guys are doing. Let's go ahead and go with
Hmm.
that. Right
That's awesome. And honestly, that's a great team building activity too, for them to
there
work
you go.
together,
Oh yeah,
decide what they're gonna go with. That's awesome.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So I try to get a diverse group of officers together. Maybe no more than five, and let them hash it out and come up with some designs. And you'd be
Oh,
amazed when you empower your people and give them the latitude to come up with a design. You'd be surprised what they can do. You just gotta learn how to trust your people, and if you do that, they'll do some great things for you. They amaze me every single day. They amaze me every single day. When I get calls about, hey, we really like this particular officer, we like the idea he came up with, or the idea she came up with. We love how they interact with the community, the students. That makes my day. When my people succeed, we all succeed. We all
yeah.
succeed.
And when I was on site with you at the Texas School Safety Conference, your group was always together. They would go in the sessions together, they'd come out together, you'd see them, they were always working together. And I thought that was really awesome how they were so committed to their professional development.
Absolutely.
Chief P, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your story. I think this conversation is just such a powerful reminder that belonging doesn't come from programs or titles, but it actually comes through people and intentional moments. To everyone listening, thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of the Empowered K-12 podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening and share it with another leader who could use a little inspiration today. I'm your host, Elena Pinkley, and until next time, keep leading with purpose.